Hello class, this week we're going to be going over image reduction for print, and I threw this together for the example. Still a lot of work that would need to be done for it, but essentially, and I'm just noticing now there needs to be a little more cleanup because I've got some lines that would knock me off some points. I think I got a B work out of this one, so watch out for that. So for this week we're going to be talking about all of the crazy little things you have to think about when you're going to print, and we're going to work with this imaginary printer that's just going to print on a t-shirt for us, and it requires a color halftone. So we're going to be playing around with color halftones and how those work just a little bit. So a lot of this will be conceptual because guess what, you don't all have the exact same printer sitting in all of your houses, so I can't exactly customize this for each and every one of you students. And on top of that, do you really want to mail something in for me so that I can take a look at it? That'd be crazy. So instead we have this conceptual idea of printing on a t-shirt using a color halftone process. And this assignment's been around for a while and I've changed some things from time to time, but I wanted to show you some of the more successful student work I've had over the years. I really like this one. The only mistake on it was the white. You will need to remove that for it. Actually, it's not a mistake. I'm sorry. He did do that. He just did such a great job. I forgot. So this was flat out great. He did it in the Memphis style, which is the classic 80s style, as a lot of you know it. This looks excellent. I would wear a shirt of this. We've got this one. Very complicated, but it worked out really well. He was very, very careful when he was applying the halftone effect in order to make everything work, and he very carefully eliminated all the whites in it. This was absolutely an amazing collage to boot. Really like that one. This one is, what can I say, this is beautiful. The reduction of the elements worked so well. As you can see from my ugly fish at the top, poor ugly fish, it's not his fault I didn't reduce him well, as compared to this better reduced red fish. It's very tricky to pick reduction techniques, and this student did just an absolutely beautiful job. The design is also just it's magnificent. Really like this one. This one is very, very complicated, but I think it worked out quite nicely. On it has very, very photographic feel to everything. It's got this just crazy collage he put together. Really well done. This one, again, also excellent. This, by the way, I'm going to require 5 elements this semester. This would meet it. We got the cat, we've got the circle, we've got 1, 2, 3 paw prints. That's 5 already. And we've got the word California meow going on. So that's 5 elements. We're set. I use elements loosely so I could give you guys a little leeway, but make sure that I can count off 5 things pretty easily. All right. This one is also quite excellent. I'd wear this as a patch, honestly, on a shirt. Or on my jacket. I think it looks great. Great embodiment of California there. This one blew me away. This print just looks so much like the video game covers that I had back when I was a kid, the PC games and boxes. Yeah, wow, that was a while back. So get your floppy disks out of there, just install that game, have a blast on that thing. It looks great on it. He did a fantastic job reducing it. Here's another one. This worked out really well. On this case, he was able to use a much smaller dot. A much smaller dot than I normally allow. I believe this semester I had it set to smaller, so watch out for that. Make sure that your dots meet the size requirements. But this is great. Got these 4 words in the mask. Got this yellow dot. Boom. That's plenty of elements right there. Looks fantastic. Again, this one, I believe I only required 3 elements this semester, the semester that this was done. So we got the car and then the 2 logos. Great job reducing it. It worked out beautifully. Also notice all these are CMYK. We're going to talk about converting RGB to CMYK to get that going. This was way back when, and I allowed for some pretty funky stuff back then, such as black did not have to have the color halftone effect, and you didn't have like an element count on it, so it was able to do this great little graphic. These days, though, the black does have to have the color halftone, so the rules have changed. I just wanted to show another method of doing it. I think that worked out quite nicely. This one, again, is from, I believe, the same semester. Built this whole thing. This looks like shirts that I had when I was a teenager, so, you know, it's great. It pulled it off really well. Here we go. Again, it's really hard. It's really hard to get photos to convert well to this process. This photo worked out very well. This semester, I don't remember what the minimums were for the elements, but they were met. And just a beautiful, beautiful job converting this to color halftone. And you can see it was careful. I believe they actually assembled the image initially, the parts in Illustrator, and used a tracing effect on it, then brought it into Photoshop and cleaned it up a little further using Posterize, if I remember correctly, and then did the color halftone effect on it. And look how beautifully that turned out. You can really reduce these things like so much. And then when you apply the color halftone effect, look how much that just looks like a realistic photo. So do not be afraid to reduce. You can reduce so much. This one I thought was just a lot of fun. You can see this illustration of Kung Fu chimpanzee or some ape along those lines, some sort of animal. Great little background elements. A lot of fun on that. Again, this a lot of reduction went into this, but it was a black and white photo for the most part with a tint, which allowed this sort of uniform process to it, and it came out quite nicely. It's so hard to get a photo to look good in this process, so I'm always impressed when that works. Don't kill yourself on it. The part I loved about this one was the use of yellow, just flat out yellow. And then when it was combined with this red background, it just produced this gorgeous effect going on. It made a really nice kind of Christmassy effect to it. Overall layout was pretty fun. This one's a beautiful layout. It's an illustration that this student did. If I remember correctly, it looked really nice when everything was said and done on it. That worked out quite well. Just a couple more. I love this assignment so much when you let loose and really work on it. This one met the element requirement for that semester. They had the moon, the astronaut, and then a couple of rings. So they had them all. I believe it was 4 that semester. Yeah, it worked out really well, really nicely coming in there. So the one thing is, I can't remember if they had some weird gray. Yeah, they had some weird gray thing going on, and I don't remember if they lost points on that. There might have been an exception that semester for using black and whites. Again, it changes a bit, but I just want to show some different processes. This one I think worked out. The bark side of the moon, that cracks me up. Again, it's really hard to get these kinds of photographs to work, and this student did a great job reducing. They actually did a couple of color halftone effects in order to get it where they wanted it, just applying it more than once really worked out well, and it played off well. Just a few more of these. This one is absolutely gorgeous. The pre-production work on it was so careful in order to make this rainbow effect, and it was across a photograph that was actually a collage of a couple of different photos. Really great work. Again, this would be a wonderful bag, for example, print on it. And again, always impressed when a photo works well. So much reduction had to be done. They were telling me that this one took quite a while, and I believe it. It worked out very nicely. The reduction played out neatly. The bird is just hilarious coming in. It was beautiful work. This one worked out well. This was another semester where you could do blacks separately, and so they were able to keep those nice crisp black colors on it. And they just did an illustration, and they had like 5 elements essentially. They had this character in the background, then these 3 shadows on it. It worked out. So really clever work. This one I thought was absolutely beautiful. And take a look at it. Here it is before. Relatively simple graphic, coming in, great design on everything. And then it reduced fairly well. Maybe a little more work could be done on the reduction, but it's honestly so tricky. I think that this worked out very nicely. Again, the design on this is stellar. Look at it. It's just beautiful. And I believe, it was a couple of passes with the color halftone effect in order to get it where they wanted it. They didn't just do it the one time, they did it 2 times just to get it where they needed it. And it worked out very well. So keep that in mind. You can do it more than once. Maybe make a note of that, because we've got like almost 3 hours of videos to get through. Might forget that by the end. This worked out quite nicely. It's a great little character. Again, more than one pass with the color halftone, and that worked out well. Now in this case, well, maybe not. No, not on this one. I'm sorry, I'm thinking the mask. They actually had just some gradients. It was a carefully designed creature, I believe, in Illustrator initially. They did the color halftone effect to it, and then the mask was just so carefully done. It did a beautiful, crisp job on all those circles. Really, really well done. 2 more. This one, I love this one. Got some palm trees, little VW bug, the circle, the California. This time is 3 elements. Hit all 3 of them. Cleaned up the whites quite nicely. And it was just ready to go. I thought it was quite sweet. And again, it was one of those processes where the first color halftone didn't pull off quite what the student wanted. She did it a second time, and then that got it where she wanted it, and she was able to go in and mask it out. And yeah, I'd wear this shirt. This looks great. And let's take a look at the last one here. This one I thought came out quite nicely. Also, clever use. If you want to keep that white, just use it on the background. We'll talk more about that in a couple hours when we get to the towards the end of the assignment process as we go into the fish. I thought this one worked out quite nicely. And again, I'm going to walk you through this one. Not the best, especially compared to some of my student work, but it should give you an idea of how to assemble this whole project. Again, this is an exciting one. There's a lot of fun things to do on it, but keep in mind, you have to reduce it so much. And if you're an Illustrator person, you're like, well, I know how to reduce it in Illustrator, but I'm not super comfortable in Photoshop. That's fine. Assemble it in Photoshop. Bring it over to Illustrator, do your reduction techniques there, save out a PNG file, bring it back into Photoshop, and then continue the assignment. I'm okay with that. I need you to reduce it. Now, that in mind, the majority of the assignments that I showed you, with the exception of maybe 3 of them, fully Photoshop. You don't have to know Illustrator at all to do this. It's not a requirement. I'm not going to cover it because this is the Photoshop class. But if you know it and just, keep it in your back pocket, you can pull that out and use it in this assignment. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to talk a lot about printing concepts. I believe first up is a long set of videos on different types of frequency printing. So bear with me, it's a lot of lecture, but if, by the way, you're running out of time, skip on ahead to the assignment videos and watch those. There may be some additional videos in the I believe I'm putting it over in the assignment discussion for the interested viewer. Those shouldn't be required for this assignment. All right, that said, have fun, and I will see you in the next video. And don't forget, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll be happy to answer them.